Hey everybody, welcome back to Chortle Cast. I'm Jake, and with me, as always, Steven, the Stream King, the Far Cry guy. He's here. Say hi, Steven.
Hey guys, can we call me the Far Cry guy anymore? We don't play Far Cry outside of arcade anymore.
Yeah, I guess that's true. You used to be doing some, like, series stuff with it.
Right,
so,
right.
And I can't call you the Commander anymore because you don't do any more XCOM stuff. What's your title in Phantom Doctrine?
Deadpan.
Okay. I'm just gonna start calling you Deadpan.
Call me the Deadpan Man.
The Deadpan Man. All right.
Yes.
That's okay. There you go. In case you didn't know, this is Chortle Cast, our weekly podcast for Chortle games, where we talk about TV shows, movies, anime, video games, whatever the heck we want to talk about. Today we got a great show for you. This happens every Friday at 12 o'clock Central Time, and we want you to be a part. You can email us stories and topics you'd like to hear us talk about at chortlecast@gmail.com. You can also send that to us to our Discord. We have a channel set up for that. You can join the Discord by going to the description of this video or podcast, or going to our page on YouTube, it's chortlegames.com, and there's a link in the banner that you can get to and use. So anyway, we got a great show for you this week. We're going to talk about Dragon Prince, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Captain Marvel, Daredevil Season 3, X-Men, PlayStation Classic, and Red Dead. So we've got a lot of great topics. We're hitting all three of our points. We're actually talking about TV shows, movies, and video games today. Yeah, it's going to be a good show. But the first thing we always do at the top of the show is catch up, and that's where I want to talk about Dragon Prince, because it is great. Steven, you haven't had a chance to see it yet, right?
No, I haven't, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's great. You got to see it. It's really, really good. Of course, we've talked about this on the podcast before. It's a show that the writer and director of Avatar: The Last Airbender on Nickelodeon is attached to this. He's writing for this. It's actually a part of a group. It's a group, and they're making TV shows and video games. So I'm kind of wondering if there's going to be a Dragon Prince game somewhere down the line. But anyway, the show's great. If I had to describe it, I would call it's Avatar: The Last Airbender meets Game of Thrones in the style of Ruby, which is an animated show that Rooster Teeth does. Really, really good. It's got the heart and the charm of Avatar: The Last Airbender. You can definitely immediately tell, like, this is very spiritually connected to Avatar, just because all the episodes are like book 1 moon, and then chapter 1 this or whatever, and that's how every episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender was set up. It'd be book 2 fire, or book 1 water, that sort of thing. So every episode started with that same title card and all that. The very first episode, they're talking about all the 6, I forget what they call them exactly, like pillars of magic or something like that. Primal sources, that's what it is. The 6 primal sources of magic, and it's very much the water, earth, fire, wind, that sort of thing.
Right.
You can definitely see the connections throughout. Another fun thing, one of the main characters, who I can't remember his real name, because Lee Allison and I referred to him as Sokka, because it's the same voice actor for Sokka, is the main kid. I really can't think of his name. I can't think of it because I just called him Sokka. But anyway, so there's a lot of connections, a lot of great connections. It's still a kid's show, and you can kind of feel that a little bit in just like kind of some plots and how some things happen. But overall, I love the show. It's great. I love where it goes. It very much has the same feel with Avatar, where in season 1 we identified a goal, beat the Fire Lord,
Right.
And that was the goal until the very last episode when we fought him. It has that same feel of like, here's our path, this is the path we're on, this is what we're gonna do, and this is just a small piece of what's gonna happen. They don't get very far, like it is kind of a slow burn, kind of like an anime almost. Things happen very slowly. It's only, I think, 10 or 11 episodes, and they spend a lot of time in the castle kind of setting up what this world is and how this all works. Once they start to branch out from the kingdom that they start in, the world really starts to open up, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen as they continue to get further in and explore it a bit.
Right.
Especially it's a continent that's been split in half, and one side is human, as a human side. It's very normal, normal, and then there's another half that's all magic, and it's just like magic everywhere. So I'm really excited to see what that's going to be once they get to that side and start doing anything. But the premise is there's this group of elves that are coming to kill the king and the princes because they killed the Dragon King and his egg. The last dragon, or I don't know if he's the last dragon, but he's the Dragon Prince. There's a young elf named Rayla. They're moon elves, and they're assassins. And they have this cool ability where at a full moon they become invisible. And so we see Rayla chase a guard who saw them, and she chases him down. She gets to him. She's basically got the kill shot, and she can't do it. She looks into his eyes and can't kill him. And so she pretends like she killed him so she doesn't get in trouble. But then it eventually comes out that she didn't kill him. So basically she's an assassin who's never killed anybody. And she kind of goes in on her own and decides to redeem herself, she's going to go kill the princes herself. And once she finds them, we've already kind of fallen in love with these princes too, just because we've seen them in a whole episode or two. And they together discover that the Dragon Prince, the egg of the Dragon King, was not destroyed. It was not broken. It was there. It's still fine. Right. So at that point, Rayla, that's the elf, she is like, okay, if you guys come with me to the realm of magic, we can stop this war. Like, this is why everybody's mad. So they all escape and run off, and we kind of see this wizard who was kind of the court wizard. He starts to turn evil and kind of get crazy and power hungry and all this sort of stuff. So anyway, it's very, very good. I like it a lot. It's got a lot of charm. Some of my and going along with charm, there's some really, really cool characters. Yeah. Rayla by far is the best main character, I think. She has a very interesting story arc. She's moving through this whole deal. Ezra, which is one of the he's the younger prince. He's cool, but he's still kind of a goofy kid. Whoever Sokka's character, and I can't remember his name, he realizes that he's a mage, and so he has all these magical abilities, but he doesn't know how to use them. So he's kind of developing a little bit as well, but I feel like it's definitely a Rayla story. But anyway, she's a great character. About midway through, we meet this character named Aunt Amaya, who is this deaf, ASL speaking human, and she's like this. She's this buff, tough knight who has this huge shield, and she fights with her shield. She has a sword, but she fights with her shield. So she and Rayla eventually get into a fight, and it's awesome. And her shield has like two prongs that have like kind of a space between them, and she like punches Rayla so that her neck is like between that gap, and but she like punches the shield into a wall, so she's stuck there. She's so cool, but she's deaf. She signs the whole time, and there's this interpreter who's with her. His name's Grant, and he's with her and he's interpreting. But what I really loved is they did scenes where he doesn't interpret what she's saying. She's just signing, and you either know sign or you don't, and you don't know what she's saying. So there's this great moment where she's like, she goes to her sister's grave, who is of course the mother of the boys, the two princes. So she was the queen. She kind of like kneels and lights a candle, and she like signs, and you don't know what she's saying. But anyway, I just thought it was really cool. Me and Lee Allison were both just like, oh man, what a great inclusion. Later on, there's another great character. I think it's Alex and Anna. It's like a girl who's maybe 5 or 6, and a wolf. She has like a wolf that she saved and is now her pet that she rides around on. There's so many cool characters, and it almost was kind of like, it almost felt like, to me, fan service a little bit, because it was just like, wouldn't it be cool if there was this cool wolf character, you know?
Right.
And that sort of thing. So anyway, there's a lot of charm. There's a lot of good stuff in there. My biggest critiques would be just kind of, it is still a little childish in logic, I think. Like the adults are kind of just weird, like how they progress. Like the court wizard, who kind of turns into the bad guy later on. You know, at first you can kind of tell he's dabbling in dark magic, but he seems like a fine dude. He's friends with the king. We get some exposition about how, you know, the king was getting this portrait done, and he wanted his friend, the court mage, in the picture with him. And so the court mage is smiling, and his daughter was like, "This is one of the only times I've seen you smile." And anyway, they seem like perfectly good friends. But then as these elves are, you know, they kind of know these elves are going to attack, some tension builds. But there's a real hard break point where the court mage has been trying to save the king through dark magic, but the king is too honorable. He doesn't want to do that. There's a hard break between he wants to save the king to he wants to kill the king, kill the princes, and become the king.
Right.
Like, and it doesn't happen necessarily on screen. Like, there's a moment where the king does something kind of mean and kind of rude to him, and then after that, from that point on, he's just like, nope, I want to be king. Kill the prince. Like, let the elves kill the princes. You know, whatever. So that was a complaint. There's a point later on where Ezra, the youngest boy prince, he suddenly has the ability to talk to animals, and like, it would have been fine if it had been alluded to a little bit more, but like, they just kind of drop it on you, and I don't even really know that it had a purpose. They just kind of said that, so I don't know. There's some weird things. It's not a perfect show, but if you're a fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender, I highly recommend it. So, Steven, why did you said you haven't been able to see it yet? Well, you said you were you had some reasoning behind, you haven't had a chance.
I told myself, hey Steven, you should watch Dragon Prince, and you should watch it before the podcast on Thursday.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, Steven, that's a great idea. But then I turn on my PlayStation, and Destiny's there. I've got a Destiny theme. Destiny's on the main page, and it's like, hey, Steven, maybe if you play me, you'll get an exotic. And I'm like, yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
that's
true.
so.
That's true.
That is true. And I don't, of course, because I believe I fall for the lie that Destiny tells, where it's, you know, saying, hey, play me and you'll get an exotic. And then you play and you play and you play and you don't get an exotic. And then just when you're about to run out of hope, just when you stop believing in Santa Claus, he shows up in your living room with a present. Destiny gives you an exotic, and it's like, oh, here's an exotic, and it's not the one you want, but oh, can you imagine what would happen if it was the one you wanted? So come on, keep playing. And that's the cycle. That's the cycle, Jake.
Did you get another year 2 exotic?
No.
Okay. I was about to be real mad if it was a year 2.
No, I did not.
No such luck. Well, that's all right. Well, I highly recommend it. But speaking of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Netflix has announced that they are partnering with Nickelodeon, and they are going to make a live-action remake of Avatar: The Last Airbender. The two show creators, and I'm blanking on their name, let me look it up real quick, but both of them are part of the project. Yep. They're going to be running the show. They seem very excited about it. Brian Konietzko and Michael DiMartino. They're both attached. Basically, they're excited to fulfill this fantasy and like fully realize the world that they were previously only able to do in animation.
Right.
So, Steven, what are your thoughts on this? Because I have a lot of strong thoughts on this.
On the live-action Avatar remake?
Yes.
I think that we all wanted it.
Right.
And then Shyamalan did it, and then we all thought that, oh God, this doesn't work.
Right.
But I think that if this was in a world where Shyamalan didn't happen,
right,
we would all be over the moon. And I think that's kind of the key right there, is that, for one, Nickelodeon's movie studios, whatever, like their studio was the one that did the movie.
Right.
They don't do special effects driven movies, and they're not known exactly for their gripping plot or good writing, any of that kind of stuff. And then
right.
Shyamalan was in charge, so it's like that thing was doomed from the start. Now you've got Netflix partnered with the guys that created the thing. We've
right.
seen what Netflix can do with original programming. We've seen they can do special effects pretty well. They've got the funding,
right.
and this is something that will get the backing it needs, I think.
Right.
I think it's great. I think it's great news. I think that I'm very happy that they're not doing Legend of Korra, because it's no secret to anybody that I did not enjoy Legend of Korra at all.
Oh, you didn't enjoy it?
I hated Legend of Korra.
Really?
Yeah, I just could not stand Korra.
We'll have to get into that another time. Well, so
she was super annoying to me, but yeah.
I'm glad to hear that someone is excited about it.
Yeah.
Because I am not at all. Because of M. Night Shyamalan's version of the movie. This makes me very nervous.
Right.
Knowing that the two show creators are on board, they're talking about doing a remake and trying to follow the same path that the animation put forth. That gives me a little bit of hope. My biggest thing is I just don't know that we need it. Like, I kind of feel the same way about a lot of these Disney animation remakes.
Yep.
Like, you've already told this story that's classic, that everybody loved. Why do we just need to see the same thing again in live action? And Disney's been good about, mixing it up a bit and doing some different, kind of fixing some problems that the old one had. And Avatar wasn't a perfect show, but it did a lot really, really well, and a lot really right.
Right.
So I just don't know. For me, if they try to go off the beaten path too much, I'm not going to like it, because it's not how it's supposed to be.
I'm just curious how a lot of humor is going to translate to live action, because I think the action will be fine. I think the story and the heart will be there, but a lot of the humor was very, very rooted in animation. Yeah.
And I'm worried about some of the action, because I think some of the action and fighting that they do with bending, I think that's going to be really hard to translate into CG and live action.
Yeah.
Because it's very fantastic and very off the walls, and M. Night Shyamalan's a great example of just, there would be earth-bending scenes where, literally the earth splits open. But in M. Night Shyamalan's, there's like 3 tiny boulders that slowly float.
My favorite part about the Shyamalan one is when you've got like those 6 earthbenders that are like, stomping forward, and then they punch forward, and then there's this little pebble that slowly creeps across the screen.
Yes.
Oh, man.
That's my fear with the action. And I think they could do, it would be hard not to do better than that. But like, even if they could do better than that, I still don't think it'll reach quite the level of, oh my gosh, this is crazy what's happening, as the animated show did. But to wrap up my thought, what I wish they were doing was what comes after Korra. What I want for the Avatar series, I want it to become like Doctor Who, where, because they've already got this reincarnation system in place, where, when the one person who's the avatar is ready to is ready to move on, just insert the next one. Who's next? And just keep the cycle going. So I don't know. I wish they would move on to what's next. Who would have been the earthbending avatar that we get after Korra?
Right.
What would they have been like? That's what I would have wanted them to go with. But I don't know. I'll reserve judgment till we've seen the trailer, or till we've seen a full episode. But so far, I'm nervous, and I just don't know why they're going backwards and not forwards. So, anyway,
at least we know that it can't go below the rock bottom we've already seen.
That's absolutely right. We've already had a rock bottom. It can't be worse than that. And if it is, oh my gosh, I'm just gonna cry. And it's not even that. It's like, if this does bad, there's no hope for anything else. Avatar related. That is.
Right.
They will. Netflix and Nickelodeon will unfortunately take this as there's nothing left for this series. And they'll drop it, I think, and so. But I don't know. I just think it's such a weird choice. Like, of all the things you could have done another season through Netflix. You could have done something different. Even if we went back to Aang, there's so many different directions they could have taken it. Why did we have to? Why did we have to go back and redo what we've already done, but in live action? I don't know.
Probably because, maybe they're trying to see if they can make Avatar palatable for the live action audience, and they may be trying to clean slate everything from the Shyamalan thing, showing them, hey, we're doing this right. Maybe they're creating it into a saga where they start with Aang, end up with Korra, and then I guess not season 3, but the third would be
beyond that in live action.
Right. Maybe the creators just don't want to restrain it to animation. And I say restrain because it's kind of as a wrong word, because animation is the opposite of restraint.
Right.
But maybe they just want to do live action, and maybe they think their best way of getting it to be taken seriously is to show them that this thing that didn't work before can work now if handled correctly.
Right. Maybe so. And like I said, with Disney stuff, they're using these live action remakes to kind of make a clean slate and reset some things that, maybe when we look backwards don't really fit, what we agree with today or something like that. So I don't know that Avatar has a lot of those things that need to be fixed.
Right.
But maybe this is an opportunity for them to do that. So anyway, speaking of things that don't need to be fixed, though, Captain Marvel. Oh my God, she's perfect. I loved it. We finally got the first look at the trailer this week. It is awesome.
She punched an old lady, and I laughed a lot.
She punched an old lady. We'll get there. The trailer is awesome. It's immediately 90s. You see a blockbuster in the very first shot to set that this is in the past. And it's great. The music is great. It gave me a lot of Wonder Woman vibes. Just very much, feminism, hero. There's a great shot, there's a great moment where the word hero pops up, but her pops up first.
That was a little bit ham-fisted for me.
You just don't like ham, Steven. You're a vegan, when it comes to art.
Okay. It's just, give me a good character, then I'll care about the fact that she's a woman. Because I look at the character first, not the gender, because I don't see life through that lens.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, whatever. Anyway, it's great. Her costumes look great. We see a whole lot. The trailer is narrated mostly by Samuel L. Jackson, who, by the way, digitally de-aged, looks
great. Yeah.
I mean, it's stupid how good it looks and how it's not noticeable that it's CG at all. the only thing that really makes it look like, okay, this has got to be CG is it's just so perfect. Like he just looks great as a just digitally de-aged. It looks awesome. We see a lot of we see her powers in action a little bit. We see her in space in the Star Force. We see her on Earth a lot. We see some flashbacks apparently of when she was a pilot and everything. It seems so. This is kind of what, based on what we saw in the trailer, this is kind of what I think the movie is going to go. I think she has been kidnapped by the Kree because of her powers, and they erased her memory or altered her memory. And she's, we don't know how she's made it to Earth, but I think she's going to be kind of trying to regain her memories and figure out who she really is, alongside Nick Fury. But we talked a few podcasts ago, Steven, about how the Kree and the Star Force may actually turn on its head and be evil themselves.
Yeah.
I feel like what we've seen here, knowing that her memories may have been altered, I wonder if that is going to kind of be the turn on its head moment.
I bet that the reason she crashed to Earth was attempted murder from people she thought were her friends.
That could be the case. That could be the case.
Yep.
I feel like Captain Marvel or whoever Jude Law's character is going to end up being. We think it's Captain Marvel. We're pretty sure, but I don't think they've confirmed that. Whoever he ends up being, I think he's going to have found her and seen her abilities, kidnapped her, brainwashed her, and forced her into the Star Force, and she's going to be trying to break out of that. And then somewhere along the line, she's going to be fighting the Skrull. So yeah,
which is why she punched the old lady.
Let's talk about that old lady punching. That was a great moment, and it took me. I had to watch it twice before I realized, oh, she punched an old lady, to make that real connection. But so the Skrull are an alien race in the Marvel universe that can transform. They're known for their
shapeshifters,
yeah, shapeshifters, abilities to shapeshift. So they are kind of invading Earth in this story, and so I would assume that old lady is actually a Skrull who shapeshifted into an old lady.
Right.
I really, really hope that they subvert that, and that we are all expecting that to be the explanation, and she really just punched an old lady by accident. You know what I mean?
I honestly think that's probably going to be the case.
I hope so hard.
You've got so many people out there though who don't know who the Skrull are.
Right.
And so, like, they watch this trailer and they're like, oh, I'm so hyped about this Captain Marvel movie. She just punched an old woman and we don't know why.
I know, right? Like, I bet that's what I've been thinking all the time. It's like people who don't know this are just like, she just punched an old lady. Why would I want to go see? What a horrible superhero. This doesn't make any sense. So, I don't know. What I really hope is that Stan Lee is next to that old woman. And after she gets knocked out, he's like, oh my gosh, why did you do that? She's not a Skrull. But anyway, who knows? But anyway, yeah, she looks great. I liked all the stuff. Like, she's getting these flashbacks, right, of her time in the military and whatnot. There's a great scene where, and this is just good editing on the trailer's part, I think. She's like up on the ropes, and she's swinging from like a couple ropes, and she falls. And when she lands, it's like her landing, a teenage girl a version of her landing, and then like a 5-year-old version of her landing, like all falling, and there's like a bump. I thought that was great. I hope we see even further flashbacks of her just as a child, like struggling and fighting and all this, and suddenly becoming this hero. I'm just excited. I think it's going to be really, really good.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, there's a lot of Marvel stuff that happened this week. That was probably the biggest thing. But we also got some news about Loki and Scarlet Witch potentially getting their own shows.
Yeah, what's that about? Like,
this is through Disney's streaming service, right?
Yes.
Why Loki? Why Scarlet Witch?
Yeah.
And isn't Loki dead?
Yeah, like that's the part. Loki being confirmed to get his own show was like, okay, so I guess Infinity War didn't matter at all. That's kind of my first impression, because Loki needs to stay dead. His arc is done. There's nothing else to do with him.
Absolutely.
He had a great run, but Thor even says in Ragnarok, "You have always been the god of mischief. You will always be the god of mischief. You will never change." And that moment where he tried to save Thor, still as the god of mischief, was kind of a arc end for him, showing that he died a hero,
right?
And that's how it needs to stay. But to make a TV show about him, Loki can't carry a TV show,
right?
Scarlet Witch, I don't know why they're giving her a TV show, because if you're going to explore more of her, wait till the X-Men are a part of the MCU. Yeah, because then, I mean, my understanding is that what they need to do with Infinity War is there needs to be a time rewrite. What I've said that I think Infinity War is, well, Avengers 4, I think it's going to be kind of a Flashpoint paradox kind of thing, where time is fixed, but there are consequences. It's altered. So maybe a part of that alteration is the creation of mutants, the X gene.
Right.
And then you could have Scarlet Witch kind of rewritten the way she's supposed to be, rather than someone who has power from the stones.
Right.
And it just seems like a better idea to wait till there is X gene lore in the MCU to give her own show. I don't know. I mean, if you're going to give someone a show that's like, if you're trying to get like one of the female characters more spotlight, I could understand them giving Black Widow one, even though I don't think she needs one. I think that there's a lot of outcry for one. I don't know a single person that said we need a Scarlet Witch show or movie.
Right, no, not at all.
Which I like her as a character, but she's not a leading character, not yet.
Right. Well, and like that, to me, I feel like there's so many other directions you could have gone, and so many other characters that need to become a part of the universe that you could explore. And so I don't know. Of all the things they could have picked, I guess we'd probably be weirded out by any of them, but those both just seem really particularly strange. But anyway, to your point about X-Men, though, and them getting included, Disney has officially kind of come out and said that, through the Fox acquisition, the X-Men franchise will now be, handled by Marvel and Kevin Feige and that team.
Yes.
So that's nice. That's great.
Yes.
Kind of a kind of story or moment for me, at least.
We all knew it was coming, but
what else would it have done? But it's still nice to hear, hey, this is for sure going to be handled by Marvel. It's all going to be okay, whatever.
Did they mention Fantastic Four at all in that?
They did not. I only saw X-Men in that mention. They didn't talk about current movies, like what was it, the new X-Men and Dark Phoenix.
Dark Phoenix and New Mutants,
They didn't mention what was happening with those. They just said that the franchise will now be handled by Marvel. So they talked a lot about They did also ask about Deadpool and how will Deadpool eventually be an Avenger or whatever. They didn't. Basically the guy that was speaking for Disney was like, I can't confirm or deny anything, but I know Kevin has a lot of ideas. So
God bless Kevin Feige. God bless that man.
I know. I love the people that the idea that once Stan Lee does pass, that Deadpool becomes the Stan Lee cameo of but he's like dressed in Deadpool but with the Stan Lee disguise on. Anyway, I don't know. Exciting news. Hopefully this will, like you said, hopefully they can integrate this into the next as we move on from Avengers 4, whatever happens there. And then let's talk about speaking of characters that need shows.
One quick thing about Avengers. Did you see the Russo brothers picture?
Yes, with the letters that people are trying to decode?
Yes, and I think, and maybe I'm just paranoid, but I think that it spells out endgame.
Yeah, that's the biggest theory, is it confirms endgame. People have seen like 2 A's and an E. There's some people that think it's really just an A and an E, so Avengers Endgame.
Or Eternity.
People have been thinking Eternal. Some people have been saying Assemble. But the first Avengers in other countries was
in the UK it was the Avengers Assemble, because there was another movie called The Avengers that was like a spy movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. No, I think it's pretty safe to say Endgame. I think that's a good title. It came from Doctor Strange in the first one. It symbolizes a lot of this being kind of the conclusion of almost 10 or 11 years of work. And
Tony even said it back in Age of Ultron, when he pointed up, he was like, so many years ago we were standing, a beam of light shot up over New York, we're standing right beneath it, that's the end game.
Right.
So that makes the most sense to me, personally.
Yeah. I think so too. I think that's the most solid of that theory. But yeah, I had forgotten about that happening this week. But also Daredevil season 3 confirmed for October 19th.
Yes. So much
is
yes.
Returning.
Good.
So yeah, Steven, talk about it. You know a little bit more about this than I do.
So I don't know much about what they're doing with season 3, because with the Marvel shows, I try to I try to not ruin it before I go into it.
Right.
In the case of things like Iron Fist season 2, I like to ruin it when I watch it because it was awful.
Right.
But we'll talk about that another time. There's no time for that. But I do know that last we saw Matt, he was presumed dead at the end of Defenders, which, remind me here in a sec, I'd like to mention Defenders and what happened to their Facebook page.
Okay.
We found out Matt was not dead. In fact, he was in the church that his mother is like the sister over. So we got a teaser at the end of Iron Fist season 2, and it was Matt in his old street clothes, his street Daredevil costume with the black and the blindfold, right. And he's talking about how he would rather die as the devil than live as Matt Murdock. So we're thinking that it's going to be him giving up Matt a lot more. So it's going to be more of him being the devil, being the vigilante, giving up his weak persona, letting out his anger as this guy that just dishes out justice. I did hear that Kingpin was going to be back. I heard rumors of Bullseye, and I really hope that's true.
That would be good.
Because Bullseye is a huge Daredevil villain.
Right.
But I've said this, the Wild Stowe talked about it in our Discord. He's one of our subs. Somebody else mentioned it too. We talk about Daredevil sometimes. In my opinion, Daredevil is easily the best Marvel show that they've put out.
Absolutely, yeah.
But
it's for sure.
On Netflix, yes. But it's one of the best things they've put out in a while, because the guy that Charlie Cox, the guy that plays Matt, is so good. Oh my gosh, he's perfect. Love him. But the Defenders, their Facebook page was kind of soft deleted this week,
right.
Because it changed its title from the Defenders to NX, letter N, letter X, and it's basically a home for Netflix original programming. And a lot of people are pissed because that probably means that Defenders is not getting a season 2.
Yeah.
Which
it didn't do well. It wasn't well received.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there is thought. If I can talk about Marvel publication real quick, there have been teases that Daredevil's going to die in the comics soon. That his story is going to end soon. And so my thought is, maybe Daredevil's done with season 3. Maybe he will die, and they're going to bury the character, and they're going to move forward not with Defenders, but maybe something else in the form of Heroes for Hire, which would be great.
Right.
I heard that a lot of people loved seeing Luke Cage and Danny on screen together. The Luke Cage and Iron Fist.
Right.
And I would be okay with that. I would hate to see Daredevil go, but Heroes for Hire might be a better concept for Netflix.
Well, and see, I thought Heroes for Hire would be better for just like a season 2 of Luke Cage, or season 2 of Iron Fist.
Right, a whole season arc. Yeah.
Yeah, where they're together. But it's whatever they want to do with that. So.
Right.
All right, let's move on. So, some other exciting news. PlayStation announced a PlayStation 1 Classic Edition. Following in the footsteps of Nintendo, they're releasing a $99 tiny console that is got 20 legendary games, or legacy games, I think is what they call them. So they've only announced 5 at this point. It's Final Fantasy VII, Tekken 3, Wild Arms, Jumping Flash, and Ridge Racer. So that's all they've announced right now. There's 15 other ones. What do you think about this, Steven?
I think it's a neat idea, but $100 seems a little steep.
Yeah, that's kind of where I land on it. I figured this has to happen at some point, right? And I think a lot of other people will follow suit. Yeah, $99 for 20 games seems a little high for me. Which, granted, PlayStation 1 is not that old. It's probably closer to the N64 years than the SNES years.
Right.
But still, the SNES, I think you can get that for $70 or $80, and it's got like 35 games.
Right.
Now it's up to opinion of, are you getting a better quality game from the Sony stuff? I think, that's what your preference for those style of consoles is.
In a lot of cases, you are, because Final Fantasy VII,
right.
that's going to take a while to beat.
Right. Right. Well, the SNES had some Final Fantasy games, I believe, and some other longer titles. So I don't know. Either way, regardless, it is surprising seeing such a steep price for so few games.
Right.
But I don't know. Once we get the rest of the list, maybe we can be like, oh, whoa, these really are all huge titles.
Right. Like if they include, like maybe a Metal Gear Solid game.
Right.
Some Spyro, stuff like that.
For,
yeah. Could be good.
I don't think we'll see Spyro, but I do think a Metal Gear game would be pretty likely. But
right.
Speaking of PlayStation, thinking of things we're excited for, Red Dead Redemption 2 online has finally been announced. Not so much detailed. It's going to be releasing a month after the game comes out in November. They haven't put down a time for it yet.
Yeah, it's funny to me because I said this, I think either last podcast before that, something like that Rockstar is in a funny position where they get to decide the fate of Battlefield. and they, no mercy, are just saying, you know what? Let's release our online component right around the same time this Battlefield game's coming out. I love it. I think
hadn't thought about that as much, but yeah, you're right. That is exactly what they... Oh, you're going to delay the game? We'll delay too a little bit. We'll let it ride.
I think it's smart to classify it as a beta because GTA Online had a rocky launch.
Yeah.
Because it was an experimental type thing, and so they said in their wording on their statement, they were like, "This may be a rough start, but it's an open beta for everyone that owns the game. We want to do this right," and I think that was very smart of them to choose that kind of wording.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's good. I also like that it gives the game, the story, the single player, time to breathe.
Yep.
And it really kind of says like, hey, this is a single player game first, and then this online stuff is going to come later. They talked a lot about how they're going to, they're going to take what they did with Red Dead's online in the first game, and improve upon it and take it further and really dive into it. They're also going to take what they've learned from GTA 5 Online and really kind of hone in on that. They said that it really picked up once they did Heist. So I imagine they're going to try to create a lot of story-ish content like that you can do with your friends. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. Shame we won't be able to stream, station wagon races anytime soon, but we'll get there eventually.
October's full enough. Because we're streaming so many games in October and doing so many Let's Plays, and even after we talked about Alan Wake last week, I told myself, should I play Alan Wake and Metro in October? So, oh man.
Save some for next October, Steven. Don't forget, you got to do this every October.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this episode of Chortle Cast. We do hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, there's a couple things you can do to help us out. Number one, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can like this video, you can share this video, and you can leave a comment, let us know what you liked and what you thought about all the topics we talked about. If you're a podcast listener, we'd love it if you'd leave us a review on iTunes. It really helps the podcast be found. You can also email us at chortlecast@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought of this episode. If you have topics and stories you want to hear us talk about next week, you can do that there. You can also do that through our Discord, which you can again find in the description of this video or in our channel banner. You can also follow us at Chortle Games on Twitter and at Chortle Games on Facebook. Steven, thanks for being a part this week. Running out of cards, so I'm about to list. I don't have time to really go through this week's schedule, but be sure to stick around. If you're not already subscribed, hit that notification bell and make sure you stick around. We've got 2 live streams this Friday. We've got 2 live streams Saturday. We're going to have a Let's Play on Monday. We'll have a live stream on Tuesday. We do another Let's Play on Wednesday. Special live stream on Thursday. And then next week we'll have another podcast for you. So thank you guys for watching this week. We'll see you next time.
Bye.